a need for compensating this by slowing down or discontinuing the hair growth. So scientists have studied this at various levels. We commonly say that pollution causes hair loss. Let's see if there is any scientific evidence or correlation between pollution and hair loss. Pills in 2018 and Fuller in 2019 have shown increased C-reactive protein levels on exposure to pollution. Now, this is a marker of inflammation and is raised on exposure to pollution. Srivastava has shown the role of human hair in health and disease with reference to environmental exposure. Rinaldi in 2008 published his study on pollution, scalp, and a reference to hair transplants in the International Hair Transplant Forum ISHRS publication. This shows that there is 1.5 to 2 times the level of pollutants on the hair and scalp as compared to the atmosphere. So 1.5 to 2 times the levels that are circulating in the atmosphere or floating in the atmosphere are deposited on the scalp and are responsible for slowing down of the hair growth and causing a sensitive scalp syndrome. Banco studied hair as a biomarker for exposure to pollutants in occupational hazards. Schumer studied the exposure of pesticides in farm workers by doing hair analysis. So hair is a biomarker for these damages being done. US truly has a publication on this. So we have published in 2015 an understanding of hair loss due to air pollution and its management by using cyclical vitamin therapy, in which we have shown 9 to 12% improvement in density, 7% improvement in hair caliber just within 2 months of starting the nutritional correction. And this effect, of course, further keeps on improving as you continue the therapy. Damage from pollution rises with ROS, which needs to be compensated. And then you have slowing down of hair growth and arrest of hair growth. Wang in 2007 has shown that you need not go outside the house to get the effects of pollution. You have volatile organic compounds in your indoor environment, which cause photocatalytic oxidation and give you the damage you see from pollution in your indoor or closed building environments where you're continuously under air conditioned atmosphere and the air is being recirculated. So this excessive wear and tear has been noticed by scientists for some time, and today they call it allostatic load. The amount of wear and tear that happens and that requires to be corrected for your well-being and for your body to continue functioning is called as the allostatic load. This is the physiological event of daily life and it needs to be repaired. The term was coined by McQueen and Steller in 1993. So stress, your hectic life, elevates the rate at which these physiological functions or your body functions are happening. The metabolic byproducts are created as waste. There is increased wear and tear. Gradually, this becomes chronic and there is a backlog of the correction required to be done for the cells. What happens with this accumulated uncorrected allostatic load is it starts affecting your genetics, the gene expression, the DNA. It exhausts the cell energy and enzymes get finished or enzymes get over consumed. So cell functions are not being carried out normally. Allostasis involves a regulation of homeostasis and restoring cell function and restoring cellular environment. Romero studied this integration between homeostasis, allostasis, and stress in 2009. Matty in 2011 and 2013 has shown that a diet rich in processed meat and French fries increases the allostatic load on the system, and a diet followed according to the American Heart Association recommendations also reduces the allostatic load on the metabolic system. This study was done in patients having metabolic syndrome. Vosu and Pia Maria have correlated cortisol levels in human hair as a biomarker of chronic stress and allostatic load. So understanding the allostatic load and neutralizing this with proper antioxidants and nutrients and seeing the benefit of change in the diet is one of the aspects we can apply to achieving better hair growth in our patients. Is there any correlation between stress and hair loss? We always say that stress is causing hair loss. Bochkarev in 2003 has published this study between stress and hair follicle, exploring the connections. So the study says that stress neurotransmitters, neuropeptides, and cytokines reduce hair growth, and glucocorticoids can even lead to apoptosis of the hair follicle cells. So during there is a desire for comfort foods to eat rich in sugar, salt, or fat. They succumb to pleasure eating, creating nutritional imbalances and obesity. Stress hormones, they raise your anxiety, metabolism, and increase the requirement of antioxidants and minerals and nutrients in the body. Peters in 2007 studied the effects of stress mediators on human hair follicles and saw that there is a secretion of substance P that mediates the effects on the hair. Substance inhibited elongation. Stress hormones, they inhibit function of the vagus nerve in the gastrointestinal tract. They increase the gastrointestinal motility, leading to poor digestion and absorption of the nutrients. Venalst in 2013 studied the relation between chronic stress and mineral concentrations in the hair, showing that hair cortisol levels are inversely proportional to levels of calcium, magnesium, zinc, phosphorus, and chronic stress leads to deficiencies of iron, magnesium, and other nutrients. ARC studied the brain hair follicle axis or the BHA axis, their effect on keratinocytes by upregulating keratinocyte apoptosis in telogen, which is again mediated through stress and substance P. So the brain and hair follicle are connected to each other to react to stress through the release of substance P. And the action of substance P was shown by Liu to be mediated through reactive oxygen species. So if you counter the reactive oxygen species or you use antioxidants or scavengers of ROS, then you can give improvement to your patients in stress-related hair loss. But is there any direct studies or evidence showing that there is benefit of nutrition in stress? So Stowe in 2011 has studied the benefit of B complex on stress in workers as a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial. Mazloom studied in 2013 the benefit of vitamin C and vitamin E on anxiety, depression, and stress. Again, a randomized single-blind placebo-controlled trial. De Oliveira of vitamin C supplements on anxiety. Again, a double-blind control trial. Al-Ansari studied nutritional correlation with stress. Taylor studied the dietary and microbial connections between anxiety and stress. Azavi studied the collapse of immune privilege due to stress, and this being a factor in skin and hair disorders. Thom studied stress and cortisol-induced hair growth disruption. So, reduce the oxidative stress, which is required as a substance P, use antioxidants, micronutrients, and give benefit to our patients who are having hair loss due to stress. We often say that incomplete sleep or lack of sleep causes hair loss. Is there any scientific evidence or any study to back up such a claim? Everson in 2014 studied cell injury and repair resulting from sleep loss and recovery of this injury by giving additional sleep in laboratory animals. The study shows that oxidative DNA damage due to lack of sleep or sleep deprivation can be up to 139%. Organ-specific damage in the liver can be up to 247%. Lung damage 166%. Small intestine 145%. And the intestinal epithelium has 5.3-fold rise in dying cells. So there is a definite relation between sleep deprivation and effects that occur on various organ systems in the body. Hack in 2007 has shown elevated inflammatory markers in sleep restriction and increased perception of pain in healthy volunteers. Hack has found in and prostaglandin E2 level in sleep deprived patients. Wright has reported influence of sleep deprivation, circadian cortisol inflammatory markers, showing raised levels of tumor necrosis factor, interleukin 10, C-reactive protein, cortisol, and cytokines. All these are important markers that reduce hair growth. And in 2018, has reported the impact of sleep on stem cell regenerative capacity. So, sleep deprivation can affect the regenerative capacity of stem cells. Derrick has shown the alteration in circadian clock and effect on stem cell tissue and homeostasis and regeneration of the cells. Plikus has shown circadian rhythm and effect on adult stem cells tissue regeneration, aging, and immunity. Everson has studied sleep deprivation with that imparts host defense. So invasion of opportunistic microbes was seen in this study with no febrile response. It means these microbes invaded just because there was an opportunity of weak cells to invade. They did not invade in their natural manner by causing inflammation and fever. So this is similar to the process of microinflammation we see in hair follicles that steps in at a very slow level, very low grade, and gradually becomes severe to have more and more severe hair loss, finally giving you even scarring alopecias. So body is utilizing the resources in repairing damage from loss of sleep, which is leading to compensated slowing down or rest of hair growth in order to conserve the resources. So we can use nutrients, antioxidants, and good support to counter the effects of sleep and circadian rhythm. But are there any nutritional studies to show that this can really happen? Again, a study by Everson, 1993, Nutritional and Metabolic Adaptations to Prolonged Sleep Deprivation. So this study shows that sleep deprivation can cause malnutrition, up to 16% loss of body weight, development of skin lesions, and 40% loss of longevity. Gao studied relation between vitamin D and sleep disorders. Honma studied the effect of vitamin B12 on plasma melatonin rhythms, increased light sensitivity. Bedoin studied serum nutritional biomarkers associated with sleep in US Adult National Survey. Held studied oral magnesium supplementation, which reversed the neuroendocrine and sleep EEG tracing patterns. Song studied the role of zinc and copper levels in serum and hair during sleep deprivation. Loges studied serum copper, zinc, and high sensitivity C-reactive protein in short-term and long-term sleep deprivation. Lynches studied vitamins in sleep, and Matsura studied nutritional adequacy and relation with insomnia in Japanese men and women. So there are relations between nutrients, antioxidants, and keeping the cells healthy to fight against this routine factor that we see of sleep deprivation and altered circadian rhythm. So circadian rhythm and sleep also act on other systems, or they influence other factors. Like Farrell in 2015 has shown that circadian rhythms affect liver metabolism. Crisp has shown that sleep, nutrition, and mood are affected by changes in circadian rhythm. Scott showed the impact of lifestyle and technology on developments of sleep. So people who are tech savvy and are always exposed to screens on their laptops, computers, phones are having sleep disturbances. Burngog studied the relationship between media use in the bedroom and sleep habits and insomnia. Higuchi showed that bright display at night has effects on melatonin secretion, core temperature, heart rate, and induces sleeplessness. Sizer studied that bright light resets the human circadian pacemaker and changes the sleep-awake cycle. Jenny saw that circadian rhythm is affected by environmental disturbances. Afagi shows that a very low carbohydrate diet can affect your sleep. So people who are on a low carb or no carb diet will have sleep problems. Katagiri in 2014 showed that diet which is low in vegetables, fish, and high in intake of confectionery or sugar and unhealthy eating habits has association with poor sleep. Young studied the dietary behavior and poor sleep in adults to the article as watch that sugary caffeine. So excess sugar and caffeine interfering with sleep and poor diet quality interfering with sleep. So we have a relation between the diet, the nutrition available from the diet, and the sleep patterns or sleep disturbances. How about exposure to UV rays? We say that exposure to UV rays causes hair loss, but is there any scientific evidence or study that can support our thinking? Pierard in 2010 has studied the effect of UV radiation on scalp and hair growth, published as a chapter in a textbook on aging hair. So scalp is affected by both UVA and UVB. Melatonin is influenced by light released by pituitary gland and affects hair biology. Now speckled, small, light, black-brown perifollicular meloderma that you see around the hair follicles on the skin surface may be due to the melanocortin released from effect of UVA or UVB. UV exposure leads to early teloptosis or exogen phase and high eclipse phenomenon. Eclipse phenomenon is overlapping or lag phase between two successive hair cycles. This is referred to as the actinic telogen effluvium. Androgenetic alopecia is adversely influenced by UV exposure. Gion has compared the hair shaft damage after UVA and UVB. Santos has shown that hair color changes, the protein gets damaged, the hair protein is damaged by ultraviolet radiation. Miniert has shown influence of antioxidants on sun protection and in properties and hair care products. Fernandez has shown the efficacy of antioxidants in human hair. This study shows that UV rays cause changes in surface morphology, protein structure of the hair, amino acid degradation, lipid peroxidation, affecting the color, shine, changes in the strength and relaxation properties of the hair. Trueb has reported the effect of ultraviolet radiation, smoking, and nutrition on hair. Gherardini has published the transepidermal effect of UV radiation of scalp in ex vivo, inducing the hair follicle damage that is alleviated by topical treatment with caffeine. So caffeine, which is a promoter of anagen and promotes cell division and cell proliferation stimulant, can be used topically to prevent UV damage to the hair follicles. What about smoking and electromagnetic radiation? Is there any support to believe that this can affect hair growth? And due to electromagnetic radiation or due to the effect of smoking, there will be increased allostatic load that requires compensation to arrest or slow down the hair growth. So Cho in 2014 has studied radiation-induced alopecia after angioembolism. So angiography and embolism study done for some another purpose, but the exposure to radiation during this study has been reported to cause alopecia. Fraser reported temporary localized alopecia following neuroradiological procedures in 18 cases. So again, exposure to radiation causing hair loss. Seol has 3 cases of radiation-induced temporary alopecia, which he was comparing or was unable to differentiate from alopecia areata. US truly has a publication in this. So we have reported in 2016 hair loss due to electromagnetic radiation from overuse of cell phone. So overuse of cell phone has been causing a nice patch to develop just above the ear. This happened with a share broker. He was trading in securities and shares and used to speak to each client for 30-40 minutes just by pinching his phone between the shoulder and the ear, turning your head to one side and holding the phone between the shoulder and the ear. And this conversation used to go on practically the entire day, each client 30-40 minutes at a time. So he has got a well-defined area of hair loss just above the ear, where he was holding the cell phone in the temporal angle and just above the ear. He had some predisposition to androgenetic alopecia. So there was some androgenetic alopecia changes in rest of the scalp. But once we asked him to reduce the cell phone use a hands-free, started him on cyclical nutrition therapy, all the lost hair just came back. And this was happening because of DNA damage caused to the cells from radiation of the cell phone. But in early cases, or if your cell is healthy, the cell is capable of recovering from this DNA damage. Su in 2007 has studied association of androgenetic alopecia with smoking. Trueb has reported association between smoking hair loss. The report says that smoking affects the microvasculature of the dermal papilla. Smoke creates genotoxins that cause DNA damage. It creates an imbalance in the follicular protease and antiprotease system, which is required for controlling tissue modeling of the hair follicle. Pro-oxidant effect of smoking releases pro-inflammatory cytokines, resulting in follicular microinflammation and fibrosis. There is increased hydroxylation of estradiol as well as inhibition of aromatase enzyme, creating a relative condition of hypoestrogenic state, so that you get a relatively excess effect of androgens because the estrogens have gone down. Yours truly has a publication and study in this regard. So in 2016, we have published benefit from vitamin therapy in smokers' hair. This study showed 28% improvement in hair counts, 8% improvement in hair caliber, and 50% reduction in villus hair, indicating that the villus hair were getting converted to terminal hair. This was seen within 4 months of the therapy. So electromagnetic radiation and smoking also can affect hair loss. So these various factors, the electromagnetic radiation, the smoking, the circadian rhythm, the sleep, the stress, everything is causing an increased allostatic load pollution on your cells, and your body is not having the resources to match the input or increase of this load at that speed. So there is a backup, or there is uncorrected allostatic load that remains on the cells. And then to achieve the regularization of this allostatic load, body does not want to have any more fast dividing and high energy consume, high metabolic tissue growing around. So body arrests the hair growth and also takes the chance to use the nutrition that is being spared, or if essential nutrients required in addition, getting these nutrients by breaking down the cells to retrieve the nutrients by autophagy and use it for more important functions. So the hair is sacrificed at the altar to maintain all important body functions. So this is what is happening in the role of autophagy. The concept of compensated failure, which is predisposing to hair loss. And we can very well correct this compensated failure by providing antioxidants, a well-planned synergistic nutrition plan. So this is what I would like to convey in today's topic of the webinar. If there are any questions, I will stop my screen share now, and you should be able to post questions from your chat box. We'll try to take the questions. They come on my screen only for a few seconds. I'll try to catch them. If I miss, you can still post the questions on the group and we'll reply each of them individually. So the main concern in this is our exposure to bright screens, our disregard for sleeping on time, our disregard for having nutritious food, our liking for high sugar, high fat content foods, our easy acceptance of smoking and alcohol, as a part of life. So the lifestyle and the way we are looking at life has to be corrected in order to save the hair. And because we cannot get all the required nutrition, which is essential for this correction, so we are trying to get this nutrition to a well-planned, comprehensive, low-dose nutrition program. It is important for us to have this nutritional support and maintain our immunity. Otherwise, once the immunity goes down, systems more than just the hair follicle will start suffering and will succumb to disorders and disease. So we have seen that people start with androgenetic alopecia or PCOS and then progress to metabolic syndrome. This is just because of the allostatic load which is on the cells and is not being taken care of and is lying unanswered. And your body cannot cope up with such excessive damage in the cells and the excess allostatic load. So if we have nutrients that can neutralize this load regularly and we change our lifestyle to reduce this load coming onto our system, both ways we can help in having good hair growth, having wellness, good health that leads to hair growth. So the path to good hair growth is through wellness. So all our kits and all our plans, nutritional plans that we have created are along this path. Now today, because immunity is of main concern, we have got specially defined immune kits which will improve immunity, plus they will give you better hair growth as well. If you use these kits, you're addressing hair growth as well as immunity. You don't have to use two separate kits, one for hair growth, one for immunity. They work for both. So taking regular care, changing your lifestyle, paying attention to your diet choices, having proper sleep, reducing the frequency of your recreational habits, and using low dose nutrients will help. Now, nutrients help in alopecia areata because basic breakdown of immune privilege and breakdown of immunity is causing the alopecia areata. So when you're treating the alopecia areata with local steroids, you're answering or you're taking care of only the symptom. You're not taking care, you're just suppressing the expression by using steroids. You're not taking care of the background of the disease. But if you use nutrients and you boost immunity, the alopecia areata may respond then itself and it will not repeat. Also, this will improve the growth and strength of the surrounding hair, which will become better, which will become strong, and which will resist similar pathologies happening in the surrounding hair. The vegetarian kits are available. You have a vegetarian kit in ProImmune as well, I suppose. I will just have to check that, whether we have a vegetarian ProImmune. So I would recommend presently that all patients who are on HairFact should change over to ProImmune. You can use ProImmune for 2-3 months, then go back on a regular HairFact. Again, come back to ProImmune if required. You can space them, you can rotate them, or use only ProImmune. It works either way. Even our basic HairFact has got the ability to boost immunity as well. That was our premise when we created the kits. But ProImmune has got, ProImmune has got 1, 2, 3, ProImmune and vegetarian. So that's good. So ProImmune has got additional colostrum and lactoferrin, which give you the advantage of receiving ready-made immunity. It helps in building up the immunity. So we are like close to 40-45 minutes into the meeting. If there are no more questions, we can take it easy and call it a day. For kids, there are the kids sachet, which always already contain immune boosters. So the kids sachet 1, 2, 3, which are there, that can be used. And children above the age of 12 or 14 who can swallow tablets can take the ProImmune kit with the tablets if they don't want to use the sachet. So we have important information in today's webinar. We are just saying that change in circadian rhythm or loss of sleep or stress is causing hair loss, exposure to UV rays is causing hair loss. We don't know whether cell phone radiation causes hair loss or not. So there is no interval required. You can rotate hair fact kits with immune booster kits. There is no interval or change time required. So we were just saying or considering whether these factors are playing a role or not. But today we have seen that there are proper scientific evidence and proper studies which support in telogen effluent. You can use hair fact for just telogen is a 3 to 4 month cycle. So you can use it for like 1.5 to 2 cycles. So recommended you use it for 6 to 8 months. After that, if your telogen is corrected, you can stop. But if the factors causing telogen keep on repeating, the triggers causing telogen keep on repeating, and in most patients, you don't find any triggering factor at all, you might have to repeat the nutritional support again because you don't know what is making the cells weak. So though we recommend for 6 to 8 months, you may find clinically that you might need it for a longer time. But benefit is seen just in half the cycle. Within 2 months, you will start seeing improvement and changes in the hair, control of hair loss, and better hair growth. So even the simplest of factors that we think are responsible for hair loss, we have seen today that they contribute to the allostatic load, which is the mechanism or which is the way they are affecting hair loss. And they can be helped or they can be countered by using antioxidants and proper nutritional support. No single nutrient will work. You require multiple nutrients. You cannot give all multiple nutrients together. That is why these have been studied in such a way that they work synergistic with each other. You get maximum benefit in lowest possible dose. So you increase the efficiency but reduce the dose so that they can be safely taken over a longer period of time. That is the advantage of using pre-planned hair fact kits and the advantage of now using the immune boosters. So all is well. We call it a day and stop the webinar here. Thank you everyone for joining in and watching. We are still not sure what is the topic of the next webinar. We'll give a thought to it, but try to be creative and take a topic which is of concern to all and where the information we give in this topic will be clinically useful for you in your day-to-day practice.